What is up, guys? It's the John Gaz. I'm coming at you today without any pants on. What I'm also bringing to you guys today is a Ferris Bueller theory. Yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Great movie. If you guys haven't seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off and don't know what it's about, I will give you a little bit of a recap. Matthew Broderick plays Ferris Bueller. Ferris Bueller takes a day off of high school with his friend Cameron, played by Alan Ruck, and Sloane, played by Mia Sara. So the plot of the movie doesn't sound anything super special, but you really have to watch it. Like, before I had seen it for the first time, I had seen little clips here and there, and I was like, this movie is way overrated. But one day I decided to sit down and watch it with some friends, and as it turns out, it's not overrated. It's actually one of the greatest movies probably of all time. But I'm not going to ramble on about how good the movie is, but I strongly recommend you see it for yourself, especially after hearing what this theory is, because after I read this theory and I watched the movie again, oh my god, does it make sense. The theory is that Ferris had an affair with his best friend Cameron's mother. Now hear me out, because this theory is awesome and I really think you guys need to listen to it. First off, we know that his friend Cameron really doesn't have that good of a home life. Cameron's always sick, he's always super stressed. And in the words of Ferris Bueller, if you stuck a lump of coal up his ass in 2 weeks, he would have a diamond because he's so uptight. Now the first bit of evidence we're going to look at is when Ferris asks Sloane to marry him that day, as in his last month of high school and her last month of her junior year of high school. Obviously she says no, and Ferris goes, tell me one reason why we shouldn't. And then Cameron responds by saying, my parents? Now Ferris and Sloane both look at Cameron like, what about your parents? Then Cameron says, look at them, they hate each other. My father loves his car more than he loves his wife. Now this may be true, but one instance of a husband and wife hating each other isn't really a good enough reason for another couple to not get married. The real reason that he brought this up is because he was talking to Ferris. He was saying, you shouldn't get married because look at my parents. You tore them apart because you needed to get wild on my mom. He's basically saying that Ferris doesn't have any value for commitment, and if he marries Sloane, he's probably going to end up having another affair. So now we learned that Cameron's parents hate each other, but then later in the movie we learn that Cameron's dad specifically hates Ferris. Ferris says this when Cameron basically destroys his father's super expensive 1960-something Ferrari and goes, blame it on me, I'll tell him I did it, he hates me anyway. Now why would he hate Ferris, his son's only friend? Maybe because Ferris banged his wife. Just maybe. We're not given any other evidence as to why his dad would hate him, so it's pretty logical, at least in the world of fan theories, to jump to that conclusion. Now we're going to rewind a little bit for our next bit of evidence, where Ferris and Sloane and Cameron are waiting in the garage for the valet to bring back the Ferrari. Now this is before it gets destroyed. Now this is also after Ferris jumps on a parade float and lip syncs pretty awesomely Twist and Shout by the Beatles. Sloane and Cameron are basically saying, dude, you're totally busted, you're nailed, you're out of here, you're kaput, somebody saw you, and then you're going to get in trouble at school for bailing. Now the specific term that they use in this sentence is nailed. So they're telling him all this, and Ferris goes, I'm not worried about anybody nailing me. Nobody who goes and watches a parade would nail me. And then Cameron replies with, my mother would. Now, I don't know if you guys know as many pervy terms as some of us 19-year-old males, but nailed is also another term used for having sex. So it kind of sounds like, if you're interpreting it a different way, that Cameron is saying, my mother would nail you, and she watches parades. Now Ferris, not picking up on this little innuendo, says, I'm not worried about your mother. Now this is probably because Cameron's mother likes Ferris. Like, she likes him enough to go out on her husband and bang him. Or, as Cameron would put it, nail him. Now our next bit of evidence is even more in the beginning of the movie, more specifically right in the beginning of the movie. Now in the beginning of the movie, when Ferris's parents leave the house, his sister leaves the house, he's all alone, he calls up Cameron and is like, yo man, is your mom around? Now why would that be the first thing he says to his friend who's laying sick in bed? Now some might say, John, that's because Ferris is asking Cameron to skip school and hang out with him. Cameron is sick and not going to school anyway, and as far as she knows, Ferris is sick too. Why would she care if sick Cameron went over to his sick friend's house and just hung out? She probably wouldn't care. Ferris is asking if his mother's around because he wants to talk to her, maybe. So then when we gather all of this evidence together, we realize that the reason that Cameron's father hates Cameron and Ferris and his wife so much is because Cameron brought Ferris into their lives. Ferris seduced Mrs. Fry and had an affair with her, and Mrs. Fry had an affair and cheated on her husband. And that's the real reason that Cameron is so stressed out, is because he's carrying around the guilt of ruining his parents' marriage. Now that is basically the theory for you guys. The only bit of evidence I've really heard against this theory is, why would Cameron hang out with Ferris after he banged his mom? If you think about it, we know that Cameron and Ferris care a lot about each other. They're the best friends in the world, and we also know that Ferris is a pretty demanding friend. In the beginning of the movie, we see Cameron sitting in his car saying, I don't want to go over there, but he's just going to keep calling. He's not going to stop calling until I go over there. And maybe Ferris just refused to not be a part of Cameron's life, and maybe this day out on the town was his way of making it up to him. Maybe. Anyway, it's all just a theory. It's a theory that I personally am going to subscribe to, just like you guys should subscribe to me. Ha ha ha. Anyway, when you're done watching this video, make sure you rate, comment, and subscribe. Rate so I know what you thought. Comment down below with any discrepancies or any maybe more evidence that you have contributing to the theory. Then subscribe if you want to be notified anytime I upload a conspiracy theory, a Secrets of Cinema, my Q&A video, which is going to be coming out really soon, along with an episode of Challenge Accepted. That's right, guys. If you didn't watch my update the other day, I am doing another Q&A. So along with commenting about the theory down below, feel free to ask me some questions that you want me to answer. I'm going to be picking like maybe 20 questions to answer, and you guys can learn a little bit more about me. And anyway, when you're done with all that and you feel like being a super fan and going the extra mile, you can always follow me on Instagram, Twitter, like my Facebook fan page. Those are all really good ways to stay connected with me between episodes, and that way you know, like on Monday, if I don't record an episode and upload it, there's a reason behind it. And then if you're done with all of that, go look in the mirror, look yourself dead in the eye, and give yourself a compliment, because you deserve it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay beautiful, stay awesome, and stay fresh.